In 1902, midway through the publication of The Hound of the Baskervilles, an open letter to Dr. Watson was printed under the name FS in the Cambridge Review on January the 23rd, 1902. And it was a bit of criticism for Dr. Watson, and it read as follows. Dear Dr. Watson, before the appearance of the February number of the Strand magazine, it is my desire to draw your attention to one or two points in your story, The Hound of the Baskervilles, in which the world was rejoiced to welcome the reappearance of the late Sherlock Holmes. Whether you can escape all the charges of inconsistency which I bring against you, without straining the bonds of literary morality, is to me, and I hope to others, an important question. From your first chapter, the fundamental deduction could be made that the year of your story is 1889. He left 5 years ago, says Sherlock, looking at Dr. Mortimer's stick, engraved with the date 1884. Now, Sir Charles Baskerville met his death on the 4th of May that year, before leaving the Hall for a sojourn of some months in London. A short calculation, or reference to a diary, shows us that the 4th of May, 1889 was a Saturday. Did Sir Charles mean to go from Devonshire to London on a Sunday? Again, in chapter 11, Mrs. Laura Lyons said that she saw his, Sir Charles' death, in the paper the next morning. That was quick work anyhow, as Sir Charles was not discovered till midnight on Saturday, and our local Sunday papers so common in villages such as Coombe Tracey. You give no precise dates of the month till chapter 13, which contains your first report to Sherlock, dated October the 13th, which was a Sunday, though you don't seem to know it. At the beginning of that report, you say a fortnight has passed since the flight of Selden, the escaped convict. Now you, Sir Henry, and Dr. Mortimer came down to Baskerville Hall from London on a Saturday, upon the evening which Perkins the coachman told you that the convict had been out 3 days now. That is, he must have escaped on a Wednesday or Thursday. From these data, I conclude that your fortnight is only approximate, and that Selden escaped Wednesday, October the 2nd, or Thursday, October the 3rd, and you arrived in Devonshire on Saturday, October the 5th. At least you must confess that your first day on the moor was a Sunday, whatever the day of the month it was. Now, on that first Sunday, you went to Grimpton to make inquiries of the postmaster concerning the test telegram sent by Sherlock to Barrymore, and you found the postmaster, who was also the village grocer at home. Then you met Mr. Stapleton, the naturalist, out for a Sunday walk, with the net that you justly called absurd in another place, and later in the day he came over to call on Sir Henry. Of the interval between this Sunday and October the 13th, also a Sunday, when your first report begins, you only give us 2 dates. The very next morning, after the Sunday call on Sir Henry paid by Stapleton, and the latter took you both to show you the spot where the legend of the wicked Hugo is supposed to have had its origin. The other date is a Thursday, when Dr. Mortimer lunched with you. This must have been October the 10th. Now your report accounts for the following dates: October the 12th, when you first saw Barrymore on his nightly excursions; October the 13th, where Sir Henry seized the opportunity of it being a Sunday to meet Miss Stapleton on the moor and propose to her under your eyes and those of her alleged brother, and when you and Sir Henry sat up for Barrymore the first time; October the 14th, when you sat up for and caught Barrymore heard his, or rather his wife's, explanation, went to catch the convict, and saw the man on a tour. But of October the 15th, you give no account beyond mentioning that today we mean to communicate to the Princeton people where they should look for their missing man. The extract from your diary in chapter 10 begins on October the 16th, which you call the morning which followed a abortive chase of the convict. It was not. Your abortive chase was in the night of October the 14th, as is proved by your writing in the diary on the 15th. This you cannot escape. It is true that you say in chapter 13, one page is missing from your letters to Sherlock Holmes, which may account for the 15th of October. But is this an intentional subterfuge? In chapter 11, which is the present limit of your tale, you are discovered by one who could only be Sherlock himself, sitting in a Neolithic hut at sunset. A careful calculation reveals that this day is Friday the 18th of October, which is the day which you and Sir Henry are to dine at Merrypit House as a sign of the healing of the breach between Sir Henry and the Stapletons. I hope you will get back in time to dress, but I doubt it. Lastly, and worst of all, you cannot have been living with Sherlock in Baker Street at the date at the beginning of this story. In the sign of the Four, you became engaged to Miss Mary Morstan in September 1888, and you were married a few months later. How then, in September 1889, were you still a bachelor in Baker Street? The identity of Murphy, the gypsy horse dealer, the so-called death of Roger Baskerville, in that vague place where all black sheep die, especially of their younger sons, namely Central America, and the evidence that you're a minor poet, these are all points about which I may say another time. The end. I hope you enjoyed that one, and it's nice to know that even as The Hound was being serialised, people were scratching their head at Dr. Watson's vague dates. But vague dates or not, we love Dr. Watson. And until next episode, bye bye.